So I've got a hold of it here. I'm gonna grab a hold of it. Oh, there we go. I think it went across the room, but we got her out. Hey everyone, well you know what? We've got more work to do on the 1975 Honda Z50A. As you can see, she is looking pretty darn sweet. She really is. And actually, weirdly, she runs pretty good. She's starting first or second kick. Maybe I'll show that to you before we begin the work. But she's blowing blue pretty darn good. So what I've done is I've purchased a pistons and a piston kit and some rings and yada yada, which I'll show to you in a minute. And we are going to completely redo the top end on this bike. So that's going to be the project. We're going to completely remove the head and the cylinder, and we're going to clean all of that up. We're going to do a valve job on it. We're going to we're going to rehone the cylinder a little bit. Or rehone it is maybe a little overstated, but we're going to scuff it up sufficiently to go and make it hopefully like new. Put a new piston in it, new rings, and yeah, put it all back together. We're also going to take the opportunity, because of course we have to disconnect the timing chain on this to do that work. We're actually going to take the opportunity to do the timing chain as well. So that means there's quite a bit of preparatory work that we need to do to do all of that. There's a lot of things we need to take off the bike to do it. So I've made a little bit of a list over here. Let me see if I can grab the list of all the things so I can remind myself what I'm telling you. So here's a list of things we need to do. So first off, we're going to need to drain the oil. We're going to need to loosen the timing chain adjuster, which is at the underside of this bike. It's down on the underside of the engine, and I like to work on this hydraulic table. It gets it right off the ground, so to get at that, I need to do that first. And then we're obviously going to need to remove the muffler because it connects to the head. We also need to remove the fuel lines and the carburetor. And in addition to that, which is not on my list, but something else we need to do, is we need to remove over here, let's see what else we need to do. We need to remove these covers. Okay, we need to remove these covers completely. And we also need to remove the stator entirely. So that'll be disconnecting this, taking the entire stator off. And why do we need to do that? Again, because we're changing the timing chain. The timing chain runs from about here all the way up to here and around. So that's where the timing chain runs. So to connect it down here, we need to take all of that off, and obviously to take our gear shift lever off too. So whole pile of things we need to take off this bike before we can ever begin. Did I mention the front tire and fender need to come off? Did I say that? Yeah, and the reason why is on a CT70 you can get away with it by just loosening sometimes the fender so you can kind of slide it out of your way. But on the Z50, because it's a smaller bike, you definitely need to remove the fender, and I'm pretty sure we need to remove the tire as well. So just to make it easier to get that, because of course when the head is right off, these bolts, the bolts for the head come all the way to here. So that's this whole distance, it needs to go all this way forward, so it's going to jam into the tire before you can slide it on, okay? So we're going to need to do all that too. So yeah, it's gonna be it's a big job just to get prepared for the job, isn't it? So anyways, that's what we're gonna do now. I'm gonna pull it off of the stand here. I'm gonna drain the oil. I'm going to loosen that adjuster, and then I'll put it back up here. I'm not gonna show you all that, but I might just show you how it's running now before we begin the job. How it's blowing a bit of smoke, and see if we can clear that up. So hey, let's stop dithering around here and talk, and let's get after it. Let's do some work. Okay, as you can see, she runs, pretty good. But she's just blowing a lot of blue smoke, and clearly she's fouling plugs as well. So that's the problem that we're going to try to solve. Hopefully you can see the blue smoke coming out of there. A little hard to know what the camera picks up or doesn't. Let me get you a little closer to the action here, and we'll see what we can show you. Yeah, she's creating a real smoke show there. So weirdly, I put a compression tester on this thing, and it's got 140 psi of compression. So I don't know if it's the head or the cylinder. It doesn't matter because we're going to redo all of that. So that's why we're doing this job. Let's put it back in the shop, and let's start draining the oil and taking everything off the darn thing, and let's get doing it. So hope you guys are ready to do some work, because that's what we're about to do. Alrighty, let's drain the oil. Alrighty, there she goes. As you can see, nice clean oil, because I changed it prior, but it's actually good we warmed her up here to, you know, for that little task, just to show you what she was doing, so that we get the oil all swished around there, all nice and warm, and it comes out good. I gotta lean it up so she'll drain properly, so I'm gonna get after that now. Alrighty, okay, well, we've loosened it with a 10mm wrench. Now we're going to take the gear shift lever off. Gear shift lever off. Alrighty guys, okay, so what we're doing now is we're going to go and actually take the timing chain adjustment off. So what I've done is I've loosened off this nut here. Do you see that down there? Let's see if that focus can be a bit better for you. So I've loosened this nut off. That's just a lock nut, okay, and then you back off the inner machine screw. Just back it off. Now that's how you would normally kind of adjust this when the bike is running. There's a tube up inside here that will adjust. We'll see that thing in a minute. So anyways, yeah, we're going to actually take this right out. I'm going to take it right out because we're going to be changing the timing change. So we'll take out this. This is essentially just to cover this here. Okay, so focus here. That's just to cover. And then inside here there is more stuff which I need to get out with this screwdriver. Can I do that while I'm filming? Here we go. So she's starting to come out. You can start to see what's happening here. So this is our adjuster for the timing chain. This is what puts tension on it. Okay, so in here there's this little holder bit that comes out that's actuated by that flathead screw, and then you'll see a spring, and then there's actually a tube up inside there. We may have to wait until is it going to fall out for us? If it doesn't, that's okay. We'll get that out when we actually do the timing chain job. You'll see that. So yeah, so that's out of there. So this is just preparatory work so we can eventually do the timing chain, which again runs around here. So yeah, let's get after it. All right, let's take the exhaust off. Let's take the muffler off. So pretty simple, just two nuts on here, and we take her off. So let's do that next. Once you get the two nuts off on the exhaust on the head, then you just take off this bolt here, and it's just a 12mm. So we're going to do that next. Once you get that bolt out, the exhaust just comes off. Simple. All right, so now that we've drained the oil, we've taken the gear shift lever off, we've removed the timing chain adjuster, and we've taken the exhaust off. Now we've got it up on the hydraulic table, so I don't have to be down on the ground, because most bikes are too small to work on the ground. This one's really too small to work on the ground. So that hydraulic table really, really helps out. It gets it up where you can kind of work on it. So you'll notice that I have the do not operate sign on it, and whenever I work on something and have drained the oil, I always throw that sign on. I don't know, I've had it for a long time. I don't know where I got it from, but in any event, I throw that sign on it, and that just reminds me not to start it, because sometimes you start projects and typically I finish them. Typically this never happens, but you don't know what happens. You know, something could happen to me, or something could happen in my life where this project's got to sit for a long time. I throw that sign on it, and I know that, you know, it's a little bit of insurance that I'm not going to do something that I shouldn't. So I always just throw it on there. So now what's the next bit? So the next step here, we've got a few options. I think probably the next step is to take the carburetor off. That's obviously got to come off so that we can get the head off. Okay. We also need to take the covers off on the other side of the bike and take the stator off too, so we can get at the timing chain. So those are the things that we're going to start working on next. Take that carburetor off. I'm using a 10mm wrench, and we're just going to undo these bolts here on both sides, take the fuel line off, and she will pop right off. Okay, we've got the fuel line off, got the bolt on the other side off. We can just wiggle it out of the air cleaner here, and then we have the ability to go and actually undo the slide. So we'll just do that now, and we'll just pull this out, and then she'll be off. There we go. We just let that hang there. It's right out of the way. Perfect. Good. Okay, so it's another day here, and you know, I slept on it last night, and a little bit of good news, because I was thinking about it as to whether or not the timing chain actually needs to be changed or not. And I thought, hey, easy test, just put the adjuster back in temporarily, and you know, take the cover off and just check the tension on the spring, and tension on the chain, and sure enough, it's fine. I can easily over tighten it here, which means that the chain is not stretched. So that is fantastic. We can easily, once we put this all back together again, use the same timing chain. So that means we do not need to remove you know, the cover, the stator, etc. So we'll just be doing the you know, obviously the head and the cylinder, piston, etc. But to do that, the very next thing we need to do is we need to take the front tire and the front fender off. So that's going to be the next bit. Okay, I've got the tire and the fender off. I didn't bother filming that because it's fairly obvious how to do that. Now we're finally into the meat of the job. This is now where we can actually begin the work, and I'm excited to do it. So hey, let's get after it. Okay, so although we're not going to be taking the flywheel and stator off, we're going to retain the existing timing chain because we know that it's good. I did take the cover off, and the reason being is that when we reassemble this, we're going to need to actually be able to view our timing marks on the flywheel to make sure that we've got the timing set correctly. And I thought it just makes sense to do it now, to take it off now so we don't scuff it up or anything else. So that's why you see the cover off here. What we're going to do now to start the disassembly process is we're going to actually take the timing chain gear bolts off. They're just tiny little machine screw bolts, and I believe it's 9mm that takes them off. I like to you know, I like to actually just use an impact. Now, rightly or wrongly, you may not choose to do that, but I like to do that just because it's quick, easy, and you don't have to really hold too much to get them off. So I'm just going to loosen them here. Okay, and then we're going to take them out. And file them away in our parts tray. Always important to keep your parts handy. Now, we don't have to really worry about this too much now. What we're going to do now is start taking off the head. So there's just 4 10mm nuts here, and you'll notice there are 1, 2, 3 that are actually the castle nut. Are they castle nuts? That's not quite right. Cap nuts. That's what they're called, cap nuts. And then there's one down on this side here. It's always on the bottom left side of the bike. That is just a nut with a copper washer, and that is the way it's supposed to be. So make note of that, so when you're disassembling that you get these back in the right order. But other than that, it's, you know, there's really not too much to this. So just like assembly, you want to do these sort of consecutively, and you may need to use a socket on them. In fact, I think I'm going to get a socket. They seem quite tight, so we're going to do that. Okay, so let's use a socket on these. We'll just crack each one. And we're just going to do the same sort of reverse order that you would when you're torquing the head down. You want to do this, you know, consecutively and in rotation. Boy, these are tight, eh? Okay. Wonder if this thing's ever been off. It certainly doesn't feel like it has. Okay. These here, you might be wondering, well, this never been off. Why are these so shiny? What I did, and I didn't film it, but I, you know, when I was trying to get the whole engine to run and stuff, because when I bought this, it didn't run at all. I adjusted the valves in here. And as part of that, I just happened to have some nice chrome covers, and I thought, well, that would be nice. So I actually put those on myself when I first got the bike, but they were the original nasty looking ones when I bought it, and so that might be. But this was really on there. I kind of have a feeling this has never been off, which is kind of interesting for a 51-year-old. Mini bike. Usually these things have been torn apart, you know, multiple times in the past. So we may need to get a little flathead screwdriver under there to get that to move. While I'm looking at it, I need an extension for that. There is another bolt that we need to remove here. Just gonna grab a flathead behind me here. See if we can gently pry this off somewhere. Seems to me there's a spot at the bottom for that. Oh yeah, there we go. That was a little more severe than I wanted, but yeah, you got the idea. There is a prying spot. You'll note when you're looking at it, there isn't really a lot of good prying spots, but they've actually left you one down on the bottom here. It's just for that purpose. So, okay, great. So that's good. Now we need to take this off. I need an extension for that. Okay. Now we just want to pop the, although we've got the bolts out of here, we want to just pop this off now, because otherwise it would prevent us from pulling the head off. Okay, so there we go. It's just sitting off of there now. It can just live there for the moment. Okay, got everything else off? We do. So let's see if we can just pull this off. And now you see why we had to take the tire and the fender off. It would have definitely interfered here if we hadn't, right? So, and there is our head in all its glory. So yeah, and you can see how, I don't know if the camera really picks that up. Can you see how, here, let me see if I can get this thing to focus. Yeah, do you see how much carbon there is in there, eh? This bit of oil, I don't really think that's our problem. There's an oil galley here, and I'm guessing it came from one of those when we just pulled it out. So, or maybe it did or maybe it didn't. Maybe that is part of the problem. Don't really know. Doesn't really matter. But in any event, oh, hang on. Sorry, wasn't showing it to you. Anyways, I was talking about this little bit of oil here. Anyways, there's our head. So we're going to actually, I'm going to put this over on the workbench. We're going to rebuild this or do a valve grind on it and clean it all up. So that'll be a separate bit. Now what we can do is we can remove, because we also need to get the cylinder off as well, needless to say. And there's our piston. So what we need to do now is actually take this nut off as well. This is the only other thing that's holding it on here. See if I can get the rest of that with the screwdriver. Now what we want to do is there is a, right in here, there is a timing chain guide that needs to come off, okay? And the reason for that is when we pull the cylinder off, this needs to slide in there. As you can see, at the moment, it hits that guide. So that guide needs to come off as well, okay? So it's fairly simple. It's just this bolt here holds it on, and then we'll just slide it out this way, or if it doesn't slide out, as long as it's disconnected from the bolt, as long as we get the bolt out, it'll still just come. It'll fall out when we take it apart. So that's the next step. So let's just loosen this off. We do this by hand. I think so. Oh, she's a little tight. There we go. Okay, there is our bolt for that. And yeah, she's kind of stuck in there, but now we can get this off. I think this is probably going to need a few blows with a rubber hammer, which I need to grab because I don't have it handy. Let's give this a few blows. You might need some prying. It may need a little bit of effort. Like I said, I think this thing's never been off. Okay guys, I'm just starting to get it, so I thought I'd show you the process. And here's the process. A bigger hammer. Okay, I was using a rubber hammer on it. So yeah. You can see she oh, there we go. I think we got her, that final blow got her loose on both sides. Okay, so anyways, guys, I figured out why my filming was really bad. It's because my camera mount was starting to break, and it was the camera was slowly sagging down. So I'm really glad I noticed that. So I stopped filming. So anyways, let's get back out of here. What we're going to do now is I probably should have done this earlier, but let's just take the timing gear out of here. I saw it rattling around there when I was hitting it with a hammer. Probably not the best of ideas. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to pull the cylinder off now that we have it completely free. And the piston, let's see if we can see the piston at the bottom here as we're taking it out. There's our piston. Here's our piston. And there's that idler gear that sits, let's grab it here. Here's that idler gear that sits inside here, right there. Okay, so that comes out. Okay, and then we can just pull our cylinder the rest of the way off. There we go. There she is. And there is our 50cc cylinder. Our 50cc piston, I should say, with our 50cc cylinder. So there we go. Yeah. Let's see what we can see in there. Can we see much? What do you guys see in there? Actually doesn't look too bad. We're not going to change the size of this, but we are going to rehone this before we put the new cylinder in there. We're also going to significantly clean this up. I'm going to put both the cylinder and the head in my parts washer, and so I'll show you that process as well. And while those things are cooking away, we will then we'll replace. We'll put the new piston on with the new piston rings, and of course we have to clean all of this up too. Get all this goop, get all the old gasket material off. So the rest is a lot of it is going to be just cleaning everything up. So that's the next process. Alrighty guys, so what we're going to try to do now is to remove the piston, okay? And the piston of course has got a pin that goes through here, and it's got just a little circlip of metal that's on each side holding it in. We only need to take one side out, then we can push the pin through and take the piston off. But the first step is to take that tiny little clip off that's on the inside, and it's a very small little bit of metal, small little circle of metal. So I'm going to try to do this, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm using a small pair of pliers to get a hold of one end of it, and then I'm going to kind of twist it to kind of compress it, so to kind of compress the circle. Okay, I'm going to grab one side and compress it, and then hopefully pull it out. And ideally you want to do this without losing it across the room too, by the way. So I'm just going to see if this may take me a few tries, and I think my hand's probably in the way of the camera, but that's just the way it is. I've got to just be able to sort of do the jobs. Okay, so I've swapped out for a different pair of needle nose pliers here. You may have to do the same. You have to try a few different tools to get this thing out. Because it's so small, it's hard to do because it's so tiny. Frankly, on a bigger piston, it's a lot easier. The smaller they get, I find the harder they are. But maybe it's just because of my eyes. I don't know. But in any event, let's give this a go now. We're just going to grab it and again give a bit of a twisting motion. Okay, and hopefully the camera picks this up. So I've got a hold of it here. I'm going to grab a hold of it. Oh, there we go. I think it went across the room, but we got her out. That's okay. I've got others. So now we can just push the pin out and we should be able to take that piston off. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so now that we have the circlip out on this side, we can then push the wrist pin out of the piston and then have the piston come off. And by the way, I did find that little circlip on the floor, so that's a bit of a bonus. So we'll stick that back in the parts tray. So now it's just a matter of actually just pushing the pin through. And sometimes you may need a little something to push it from the other side, but we got lucky on this one. There we go. There's the wrist pin out, and now we can should be able to just very quickly take our piston off. And there we go. I've got a little deal that I was using to push it that was holding us up, so I was just pushing it with that little piece of metal there. But there you go, which is not part of anything. But that is our piston out. So that was, it's relatively simple, not too bad. So now what we're going to do is a bunch of cleanup. We've got to clean all the gasket material up. We've got to clean the head up. We've got to clean the cylinder up. We're going to measure the various tolerances. We may put a new cylinder on here because I'm not sure about the tolerances on the cylinder. We've got a new piston, of course. We may just put a new cylinder on there, or we could have the old one rebored. I'm not sure which way we're going to go on that. So we will first check the tolerances and check and see. Okay, well, I'm now going to start working and taking all the gasket material off, and I'm not going to bore you by filming all that. I'm just going to do the usual things to try to get it off. It's going to take a lot of scraping and persistence and yada yada. It's really important we get the surface fully clean. But as you can see, what I've done is I just wanted to show you this bit. It's really important when you're going to do this work to to actually go and fill up these cavities with, whether it's a rag or some paper towel like I've done, just so that you're not getting these little bits of crap into the engine when you're doing this work. Perhaps a little bit obvious, but it's just one of those simple things that I just thought I'd show you. So I'm going to get after it and get this cleaned up. Okay guys, well look, what we're going to do now is we're going to go and take the head apart with the whole idea of cleaning it. As you can tell, it definitely needs to be cleaned. We're also going to take the valves out and do a valve grind on it. So the process to start here is going to be to fully dismantle the head. Okay, so we're going to take it fully apart. We're going to take the valves out. We're going to take the rockers out. We'll take the cam out, all of that stuff. So hey, let's get after it because it has to be cleaned, right? So let's do that. And yeah, I'll take the spark plug out here. It's just loose at the moment. Get that here. That's where this bit. Okay. Now we're going to take the cover off here, and this is the area where we'll be able to access the taking the rockers out. So let's work this here. Alrighty, there we go. Got that cover off, and there you can see our cam. Okay. But to get the cam out, you first need to take the rockers out. Okay, the rockers are right here. Okay, they're rocking back and forth on the camshaft like this. Okay, as the lobes go around, and that's what's opening and closing our valves on each side, our exhaust and our intake valves. So we need to take these off. So they're sitting on pins. Okay, they're sitting on pins that actually extend right across here like this. Okay, and so to get those pins out, there's a little trick. It's a little trick. Sometimes with mechanical stuff you need to know the tricks, and the trick here, because those pins are right here. Okay, one here, one here. So again, pin, pin. That's where they are, okay? So to get them out, what we do is we actually take an M8 bolt, okay? So just a standard metric M8 bolt, okay? Standard thread. Let me turn it this way so hopefully you can see. And you just take it and they're threaded on the inside and then they just pull out. Now sometimes they're a little bit hard to pull out because I'm going to grab a vice grips here just in case I need it. The smallish vice grip I do. I'm not sure I'm going to need it. I'm going to try pulling it myself with my hands, but typically you may need to yank on these things a little bit. Yeah. Oh, hey, look at that. I got that one out. I have to say that's a little bit unusual. You can get them out that easily. On most of the heads I've taken, I've had to put a vice grip on, on the head of the bolt and just give it a good yank. But luckily, I was able to get that one out easier. So there's one. And the other thing I should note right now, okay, is that only one end of these are threaded, okay? Only one end of them. And it's really critical that when you assemble this, that you have that end with the threads on the outside here, so that if ever you go to take it apart again, you can pull it out. If you put it in the other way around, there are no threads and you're going to have a hell of a time. It'll be practically impossible to ever get it out, okay? So yeah, I know we're not assembling it yet, we're disassembling it, but that's just comes to mind and it's really important. So let's see if we get lucky on this one. So we can pull it. Oh, gee whiz. Got lucky on both of those. Okay, good. Well, you see how easy that is, and there's your trick, M8 bolt, to get those out of there. So that's good. So now that we've done that, turning it the wrong way. Let me just angle this a little bit so you can see it a bit better. Okay. So now we've got our, the pins are out of here. So these should essentially just lift out of here. Let's just see. Can we just lift them out? Yeah, there we go. There's one. And there's two. There we go. There we go. So now that we've got those out, we're left with our camshaft there. And our camshaft, now that we have the rockers out, we got the pins out, we got the rockers out, we should be able to just push this out. So, so it comes out the opposite side here. So it's going to come out over here. And we just push it out. And it just falls out of there. Okay, typically. Now you will have to, actually, just before I take it out, I need to show you a little bit. Let me see if I can get this a little closer to the camera. Let's just see here. A little closer to the camera. Okay, focus. Okay, so you notice that the opening here, okay, this opening here, notice that it is not circular. You'll notice that it is a funky shape, okay? And the reason for that is our cam, of course, has lobes on it, right? They're not totally circular either. It's that the lobes that actually move the valves up and down, right, off the rockers. So to get the cam out, we actually need to rotate the cam as we're turning it out of there, okay? So let me see if I can kind of show you this. So we need to kind of turn it. Let's get my fingers out of the way. Try to do this so the camera can pick it up. So turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it. Just turn it until the thing wants to come out. There we go. So that's what you have to do to get the camshaft out, and you'll notice now how funky shape that is. And the reason, again, it's the funky shape is to do exactly that, so you can get the cam in and out. Okay, so we got that out. So now all that we are left with, all that we're left with on this that we're going to take apart are the valves themselves. Okay, now to do those, they're pretty heavy springs in here. I mean, I can't even, well, maybe I can push them ever so slightly, but I can't hardly push them more than about 1 millimeter with my fingers. So you need a special tool to do that. And you can, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here because I haven't got the tool out of my toolbox yet. I'm going to go grab it, set it up, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to remove the valves. Okay guys, I've got the tool out of my toolbox here. It's a valve spring compressor tool, okay? And this is a very cheap tool that I purchased off of Amazon. You know, this, for these small engines, all you need is a cheap ass tool. I don't remember quite exactly how much I paid for this, but it was in the neighborhood of $30 delivered to the house. And it makes this job infinitely easier. So yeah, if you don't have one of these, just go into Amazon, type in valve spring compressor tool, and don't worry about getting an expensive one. Just get one that kind of looks like this. Each of these are for different size valves, so but typically you're going to use the small ones. Okay, I can't remember exactly which one. We'll figure that out in a minute. I think it might be this one here that we use, but in any event, or this one, can't recall. But just get a cheap one. You don't need anything fancy for working on these small mini bikes or motors, or even motorcycles generally. You don't need a big one. Okay. Okay guys, so I've got the tool assembled here, and I'm going to do my best to try to show you how to do this. It's kind of small work, so it may be a little bit hard for the camera to pick it up. So I'll just kind of explain what I'm going to do first. What I've done is I've chosen the right size of compressor to go and be used here, and essentially you want one that gives you as much space. So you notice there's a gap here, as much space as you can have. But not have this unit being any larger than your valve. Okay, so that's, and the reason for that is we want this area to be, you know, we're going to actually use this area to go and actually get the keepers, the valve keepers out of here, which I'll explain in a minute. And so you want this area to be as wide as possible. So just get the biggest one in your kit that you can use. It isn't bigger than the top of the valve. Okay. And so that goes on that side. The other side of this is just simply a pusher. So this side holds the top of the valve down so it doesn't move. This side compresses the spring side of the valve down so that you can get the keepers out. Okay, so what we have to do now is just assemble this to get it in here. Now I'm going to have to do some adjusting on the tool here to get this to fit. So bear with me, talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Okay guys, so I now have the tool on there. So as you can see, I've got one end, the solid end, holding the valve down, so the valve cannot move. Okay, and on the other side we've got our tool on top of the valve. It's got the valve keepers. Okay, and so the process now is just to compress it. And then what we're going to do, and then once we compress it so the valve keepers are loose, we're then going to grab those keepers out with a magnet. So that's going to be the process that we follow here. Okay, so let's get after it. Okay guys, I'm going to do my best to try to show you how to do this. Now, I've got this zoomed out a little bit because I'm trying, you're not going to need to do this. I've got this contraption sitting in a vise here. Just so hopefully I can film it and show you what I'm actually doing. I want you to be able to see me get the valve keepers out of here with the magnet. Okay, so we're going to compress the spring. There's two valve keepers, one on either side. We're going to take them out very carefully with the magnet, and that will allow the valve spring keeper to come off and allow the valve to come out. Okay, so we'll show all that, but I wanted to kind of show you this process. You will not need to put this in a vise. Okay, I'm just simply doing this for filming. You can just do this on your bench, but if I did that, there's no way that I would be able to film it the way I normally do it. So I'm going to zoom you in here. We're going to try to get you right in there. Try to get this thing to focus really well, okay, on what we're doing. And I'll do my best to try to keep my hands out of the process. Maybe I can work at it from this side here. I'll see if I can do that. So, all that said, let's try it. Let's give it a go here. So, yeah. So what we need to do is just start compressing. So, I'm just going to be compressing it by twirling the bolt from the other side here. I'm not sure if the camera probably isn't picking that up because I got you zoomed all in, but I'm just twisting this. Okay, and you'll see that now you can see those keepers there. You see that? I think we're at the stage where we can probably get them out. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so let's see if we can grab one. There's one. Okay, so can you see that? Let me just see. Do you see that? See if I can focus. Okay, there's one of the valve keepers. Okay, so I'm just going to very carefully put that in my magnetic parts tray. Super important you don't lose these, because of course we need these to to reassemble it. Okay, and they're tiny. And there's the second one. Okay, there's the second one. Oh. So again, the magnet is really, this is a dumb little tool. If you don't have one of these, I'm not sure what they are, what they cost, but probably a few, couple dollars or something. Really, you maybe could fish them out some other way, but trust me, you're going to be pulling your hair out. You see how easy that is by just, using one of these. Okay, so now we just decompress the tool. Okay, so I'm just going to decompress it, get it back to its normal state, and that will allow the valve keeper, which is sort of the round piece of metal on the top, to just come off, and the springs to come out, and then the valve to come out the other side. So let's do that now. Just decompressing it. We'll get the tool off. Okay, let's just take. Oh, look at that! I don't know if the camera picked that up, but the valve literally just fell out of there. So I'm going to put it back in so we can see. I'm going to put my finger on this side to hold it all together so you can see what happens here. Okay, so all right. So let me readjust the camera and I'll show you what we got going here. Or is this going to work? Yeah, I think this is going to work. Let me just zoom you back out a little bit. There we go, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got my finger holding it so it doesn't fall out, but here, this is, there's our valve. Oh, it's not going to fall out now? It fell out before. Okay, that's all right. So there's our valve keeper. Okay, this bit here, can I get that out? Oh, there we go. There's our valve keeper. And there's our springs. Okay, and there's two of them, you'll notice that. So the little one goes inside the big one, just like that. Okay, and then there's our valve, and we can just pop it out. So just give it a little push, and there's our valve out. Okay, and that is how you get the valves out of the little engine. It's actually really simple. I know that was a long-winded explanation, but I wanted to try to show every aspect of it, so it's, so hopefully it's a little bit simple for you guys. I'm not going to bother showing you the other one because it's the exact identical process. It would just be repeating myself. And I'm already waffling along here too much. So I'm going to stop the waffling. I'm going to get the other one out. And then you and I are going to do some cleaning work by putting it into an ultrasonic cleaner. So we'll do that next. Okay, so the time has come to actually do some cleaning. We've got the head completely disassembled. I scraped off as much of the various gasket materials as I could easily. And also, these are the parts I'm going to throw in. I'm not throwing everything in here, you'll notice. I've just got the covers as well as the valves themselves. Everything else is neatly stowed away. That will not go in a parts washer. In my opinion, you should never put things like, cams or anything else like that in, or even the springs. They don't need to go in the parts washer. And in fact, with the cam, I think it would probably ruin it, to be honest with you. So definitely not doing that. We're just putting this in there. And so let's do that now. Let's just fire it in here. So yeah, so we've got it all sitting here ready to be dropped in. So can I do this with one hand? We'll see. Let's see if I can. Alrighty, get in there. Get in there. Alrighty, she's in. We're going to let that cook a while. I'm not going to turn it on while I have the camera going because it makes a terrible humming sound that we don't want to hear. But I'm going to let that sit. I'll probably put it through, 3 or 4 different rotations. This thing only goes for 30 minutes max, so I'm probably going to put it in there at least twice, and I'll take a look at it. I'm also using some significant heat on it as well. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, and we'll see how good it comes up. So that's next. Once we get it clean, of course, then we can begin the reassembly process. So, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Rather than the reassembly process, the next thing to do after this will be to do a valve grind. We got to do a valve grind. Then we'll do the reassembly process. Hey everybody, well hey, we're back out in the garage doing a little bit more tinkering on the 1975 Honda Z50A, and we've pulled the head parts out of the ultrasonic cleaner, and they came up quite well. So let's take a look at that. So now this of course isn't the entire head. This is just, you know, the main body of the head as well as a couple of the covers that I put in there, and as you can see, they came up pretty well, not too shabby. So you know, when it's sitting on the engine, it's going to look like that. Okay, you got to imagine the carburetor being connected on top there, and a nice shiny valve cover here, nice shiny cover here. So you got to use your imagination a little bit, but yeah, I mean, she's 1975. Does she look pristine? Gosh no, but she's a lot better than she was. And probably most importantly for our application here isn't how good it looks, it's how functionally clean it is. And that's what we want for this job, is functionally clean. So the combustion chamber also looks pretty decent. So I could have cleaned this up, like I could make it shiny in there, but there's really no point. It is functionally clean in there. I did use a bit of Scotch-Brite in there and cleaned it up with, you know, with a bit of WD-40 and yada yada. But no, she's good. She's good there. So what's the next step? Well, the next step is we want to make sure that when we reassemble, that our valves have a super tight fit and will not leak oil. Okay, that's really the key bit. So how are we going to do that? Well, you may be, can I get that out of there with one hand? Come here. Let's see. Oh yeah, got it out. Okay. So you may be wondering why, well maybe you're not wondering why, I have a little bit of fuel line sitting here. Okay, it's a little bit of new fuel line. And I've got a tube, a well-used tube of valve grinding compound. And I have my cordless drill. Okay, so we're going to use those items to actually do a valve grind on the head here, and that's what we're going to do next. So let's go do that. Okay guys, so what we're going to do is we are going to put a little bit of this fuel line onto the end of one of the valves. Okay, we're not going to do that right now. Well, maybe I will right now just to show you, but we're just going to get it on there like that. So it's a really super tight fit. We're going to do it after we put it into, after we actually put it into the head. Okay, so there's the valve. Just imagine on the other side, we're going to put this on there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to run it back and forth with a little bit of valve grinding compound on this leading edge and on the seat here. Okay, so don't know if the camera quite picks that up. Let me just have a little gander here. Can you see that? Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And then what we're going to do is we're going to connect the other end of this to our cordless drill, and then we're going to spin it around using our cordless drill. So I'm going to show that to you. Now obviously you don't need to do it this way. There's lots of ways of doing this whole job, but I particularly find this method really nice and easy and fast, and it does an amazing job. So let's start, what should we start? With the intake or exhaust? Let's start with the exhaust. What the hell? So we're going to put that in there. We're going to flip it over so now we can see our valve here. So now the trick is to take our little piece of tubing and stick it on that end there while it's actually on the you know, in the head here. So let's just do that. Okay guys, so I've got the fuel line on there. It took me a little bit of effort to get it on, but I got it on there. It's always a little harder when it's in the head because you don't have the finger space that you do when it's outside. But in any event, I got it on there, and you will too. It's not that hard. So now that we have it on there, of course, you know, I can spin the fuel line, and it spins the valve, right? And so what our process is going to be is we're going to put this end here into the drill here, and we are going to spin it, and we're going to go and actually, by doing so, with some valve grinding compound, both on the seat and on the leading edge here of the valve, we're going to go and cut in and make sure that we get an absolutely perfect seal here. Now, obviously, there's lots of other ways you could do this. But this is the way that I find that I like to do it the very best. It's fast and it's very efficient. The thing to note is as you're doing it, and I'm going to show you before I put it in the drill because it's a little bit easier to show you here, is that when you get the valve grinding compound on there and you bring it down, it's going to want to kind of call it squish out, if you will. So every once in a while, lift it up like this, and then bring it back down. Lift it up, bring it back down, lift it up, bring it back down. That'll redistribute the valve grinding compound and you get a better cut that way. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to put it into the drill here now. So we'll do this in real time so you can see it. Okay, so now she's in the drill, and okay, we can spin that really good. I could put the drill faster, but you don't need it terribly fast to do this. The other values you can see I've got it leaned right over. Beauty of fuel line is it's totally flexible, right? So it gets out of your way. Now I'm going to go and put a little bit of a dab of valve grinding compound on my finger here. Push this thing out, and we'll get some on there. Okay. Okay, just going to bring it down. We'll smush that around a little bit. And there we go. So I think we're in good shape to actually do this process now. So that's what we're going to do. So let's give her a go. So I'm putting my finger on one end, which I know isn't great for filming, but I need to do that because I want to put some pressure on here. Not ridiculous. I just want to make sure it's seated when we're doing this, right? So we're not like pushing hard, but I'm holding it down so that it's, because obviously I'm spinning it out here, it's doing absolutely no good for us, right? So you want it down there, so I'm just putting my finger on there to hold it. I don't think I can do that without, obscuring your view, but that's just the way it is. So okay, let's do it. And that should really be enough. That should really be enough on that one. So I'm going to loosen this off. We'll take this off of here. Okay, pop our valve out. And let me grab a little bit of a rag here and we'll just wipe this stuff off. Obviously I'll do a better job, but I just want to wipe it off quickly to show you what we've done. And also this, you want to do this so you can kind of inspect it in case you want to run her in there again. But already, I don't know if you can see that, how nice and shiny. Oh, I'm going to get my hand out of the way. If you can see how, hang on, come back here. You can see how nice and shiny the leading edge is here. You can see we've cut that really nice. And if we do the same here, let's try to wipe that out. Okay, and you'll notice this is all nicely cut now too. You can compare it with the intake, which was cleaner to begin with, but you'll notice now on the exhaust that it is, we've got some shiny bits going on there. Now I'm going to get my glasses on and I'm going to actually inspect this now. I'm going to inspect it better to make sure there's no, divots or any areas that I think maybe need redoing. If it does, well, we just pop it back in and redo it, okay? Once we do that, I'm going to do that on both sides, okay? I'm obviously going to do the intake as well. But once we do both of those, then what we're going to do is we're going to assemble the springs. Okay, we're going to assemble put the valves back in. We're going to put the springs on, and then what we're going to do is we are going to do a test. Okay, and for me, I like to do an overnight test of filling this up with Marvel Mystery Oil. We'll put a spark plug in it so it doesn't leak out of the spark plug hole here. We'll have our valves in, fully seated. We'll fill this with Marvel Mystery Oil, and in the morning, if I have even one drop of Marvel Mystery Oil out of this thing, and it's red, by the way, that's one of the reasons I use Marvel Mystery Oil, you'll see it right away, then we'll know that we have to redo this job, that we didn't do it good enough. Conversely, if it passes the overnight test, then we know we're good. We know we're good, and we can go ahead and reassemble the rest of the head and put it on the bike. So, okay, so I'm going to get after it. I'm going to redo this stuff up. I'm going to bring you back when I'm about to put the springs on and the keepers, because I think you'll want to see that. I'll show you how to do one of those, and then we'll do our test. Okay, that's going to be the next bit. That all sounds like quite a lot, but for you it's going to go just like this. Okay guys, I did forget to mention that once you have finished the valve grinding process, to clean the parts very, very thoroughly afterwards. Clean both the valves and the head again, because you need to get all that valve grinding compound out of there. That is a major abrasive, and you don't want that going through the engine, right? So it's got to be cleaned really well. And these passages, what can often happen is you can get a little bit of valve grinding compound on the, on the stem. Obviously, when you're doing the job, you don't want that, but after you've taken it in and out a bunch of times, there very well could be a little bit of particulate down in there. Getting that out is hard. So what I do is I typically throw it into the ultrasonic cleaner. It doesn't have to be in there for very long, and then I'll take this stuff out and I'll rinse it under the tap, under some hot or cold water, it doesn't matter, and then dry it thoroughly. So I didn't mention that, so I just thought I would tell you that's what I'm going to be doing next year. We're going to throw it back in here, throw it back in the ultrasonic. We'll turn heat on just for the heck of it, turn this on. Actually, I'll turn that off because I'm sure that's very irritating for you, but after I kill the video here, I'm turning it on, and we'll let it soak in here for a good long time, and then clean it up with just some fresh water. Okay, well the happy day has come, and we're going to assemble the head here. The first step here is we're going to put the valves in. So what we want to do here is, what should we start with? Should we start with the intake? Sure, why not? I've put a tiny little bit of assembly lube just on the shaft here, just to ease it going up and down in the hole here. So we're going to pop that in there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our springs. So we've got both a big spring and a little spring, and put those together and stick those on top like that. And then we need a keeper, okay? And we stick the keeper in there on top, okay? And now what we need to do is we need to compress it again so that we can get the keepers in there. And I've got them in a little bag here. They're so tiny, you don't want to lose these things. So they are right there. So, but before we can get to that bit, we need to compress it. So we're going to use our compressor again. So we'll just get this on here. Okay, well I must say it's really a bit of a challenge to set the camera up in such a way that you can see it and I can still work on it. I can either set it up so you can see it, or I can set it up so I can work on it. And they're not the same, let me tell you. Anyways, hopefully you can see it well enough, and hopefully I have it in such a position that I can work on it still. So I'm just getting the keepers out. These things are so tiny, they're so little, that you need to be very careful. You really don't want to drop these things. So just be super cautious with them. So as you can see, this is the stuff that a lot of other videos that you'll see online don't show you, but you can see they're kind of tapered. Okay, they're kind of tapered in two pieces. So that smaller that smaller diameter is what you want to go in first, and that the higher diameter is what goes in on the top. So hopefully that makes some sense. So now I need to just carefully drop these in. I'm going to try first off using a very tiny little pair of needle nose pliers, and if that doesn't work I may use my magnet. We'll just see if we can get that in there. So there's a combination of that plus a little pick to just drop them in there. Okay, do we have one in there? We got one in there. There's one. Now we need to get one on the other side. Maybe we can spin this one. Problem with this tool is it's a little bit magnetized, so can I get that in there a little bit better? Let me just see. Oh, there we go. So now we've got it on the other side, so now I can drop this one in here. So let's just try to do that carefully. The thing about working on small engines is some of the parts are very small. So, okay. Let's see if that's going to stay there for us. Come on, baby. Oh, that's the wrong way, and it's magnetized. Alright, okay. I'm going to try a tool that is not magnetized. See if this one's not magnetized. I've got another one of these things. See if this will do the trick. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, guys, but you know, I'm just showing you as it is. I'm not editing this, just showing you what the real process is. And I think that's going to be good enough. I think once we loosen this off, I think that's going to work for us. Okay, we're just backing her off, and it should, you know, if we're lucky, just seat right in there. We'll take a look and see. There we go. Look at that. She's seating right in there just perfect. So we had a little bit cattywampus there that first to go around. But now we've got it just perfect, exactly where you want it. So let's just take this off for a moment and have a little gander. Okay, let's get that out of our way. Let's have a little bit of a look. And you can see that seated in there just perfectly. So we've got that valve in there. So that's one done. Okay, so let's put that exhaust valve in. So I put a little bit of assembly lube on the shaft here. We'll put that in there. The next thing we need to do is we need to go and put our valve seal on. So the one thing that's different about the exhaust side relative to the intake is there actually is this little cap and this little valve seal. So I've got a new one here out of the package that we need to put on. So now that we've got the valve in there, now what we can do is put our valve seal on. So we're just going to press that on there like this. Push that on. And so once we get that on to, probably the camera's not picking that up very well, but I just pressed that on, okay. And then once we do have that over top of the shaft, then we can just drop this little cap on. It's just a little metal cap and it just slides on there as well. A little challenge with these things because everything is so, not a lot of finger room in here. Don't mind me, you're not going to see this, but oh, there we go. Dropped her on there. Push it down. Okay, we've got that all pushed on down into there. So let me see if I can bring that a little bit closer to the camera so you can see. So you see I've got that pressed on there. So we'll put the valve seal on, then drop that on, so that's good. Now we can put our springs on. So little spring, bigger spring. Here's our little spring, bigger spring. And now I'm just going to put the keepers on exactly like I did for exactly the same as we did for the intake. So there's no point in me really filming that again for you. It's exactly the same process. So yeah, so once we have that done, then we'll move on to installing the cam. So that'll be the next step. Okay, so the time has come for us to go and assemble the rest of the head, and the next step is to put the camshaft in. So the camshaft has got holes on one side, that's for our timing gear, and does not have them on the other side. This, of course, is our timing gear side here, and this is the side that has the eccentric hole, so it's not really a round hole, it's a little messed up hole. So, and that's to allow for the lobes to get in. Conversely, this side is completely round, okay? So what we need to do is we need to go, and we know that when it's in the machine, it needs to be in this position with the holes out here, so we can put the timing gear there. This is where your timing chain is going to go. So it needs to go in that way. So before we actually do that, we're going to put a little assembly lube on here. Okay, and if you don't have assembly lube, that's fine. Some gear oil would work just as well, and if you don't have that, just some motor oil. Even used motor oil, it doesn't really matter too much. Assembly lube is ideal though because it's sticky and it kind of stays there when you put it on. So, and that's why I'm using it. So, again, you want if you're looking at the timing chain side, you want the holes to be out. And then when we put it into here, we have to spin it. That's why the little messed up hole, so the lobes can go through. And then line it up with the hole on the other side and spin it as you're churning it. Okay, and there you go. And she's in there. It's just that easy. So the cam is now in there. The next step that we need to do is to put our rockers in, okay? So our rockers are going to sit in here as well. And so the rockers are going to have the adjustment side on the whole, onto the tops of the valves, on the tops of the valve keepers here. That's your adjustment side. And then the flat side goes onto the lobes of the cam, of course, okay? So if you don't have these backed off already, you probably should, okay? And actually, you know what? I need to do that because I'm looking at these and look at that, they're adjusted. I want to loosen those off so everything is nice and loose. So I need to do that next. I'm not going to bother filming that. I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have the rockers loosened off, the adjusters here, I've got them all nice and loose, okay, and that's important. You want them, so that they're not bottoming out on here. So what we're going to do now is, again, I'm just going to put a little bit of assembly lube on the pad here. I think I might just put a little drop on the top of the keeper just for the heck of it. Of course, that's where this is going to go. There we go. You can't use too much. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to drop it in there. So how can I show this to you best? Maybe on the side here. Maybe this is the best way. Hey, let's see. So we're just going to drop this in. Again, kind of common sense. The adjuster goes on the adjusting side. The pad goes onto the cam. Okay, and it just sits in there like that. Done. So there's one in there. So now what we're going to do now for that side is, if you remember from the disassembly, we have the pins, okay, that hold them in. And I did mention this on the disassembly, but I'm going to mention it again in case somebody's fast forward and didn't catch this. But there's a threaded side to this pin, okay, and there is a non-threaded side to this pin. You can, on assembly, you could push it in either way, but it's really, really, really critical that you put it in with the thread side out, okay? And the reason for that is when you go to take this out, you need to be able to thread a bolt in there to pull the thing out, okay? If you put it in the wrong way around, you're gonna have a hell of a time ever getting this back out again, okay? So what we do is we're getting a little bit of assembly lube on this, okay? Let's get a little bit on there. Okay, just so she slides in nice and she's nicely lubricated. And then what we're gonna do is, there's a hole here. You see the hole right there? Okay, that's where we're gonna slide her in to hold this in, and we may need to adjust this a little bit as we go. There we go. And once she's in there, then take your bolt out. Done. Good. So that's one on. Let's do the other one quickly here. So a little bit of assembly lube. Good stuff everywhere. Drop it in. Okay, sitting there. Let's grab this. And now, again, I don't have to put the bolt in, but I'm doing that because it's no effort and it just makes sure I'm putting it in the right way. It also gives me a little something to hold on to push in with. So it's kind of a good practice, I think, anyways, to hedge against making a mistake. None of us want to do that. So there we go. She's in there. Undo our bolts. Done. Now we've got them on there. That's it. And now our head is assembled. It is ready pretty much to be put onto the bike. Obviously we've got some covers to put on here, yada yada, but a lot of that we're going to do as we're assembling the rest of the bike. So basically, and obviously then these covers are going to go on, etc. So that is the assembly of our head, and that's how we're going to leave it for now until we actually get the rest of the bike in position to bolt this thing on. I'll do the rest of it later. So yeah, so that's it for this part. I think the next step we're going to do is, I think it's now time for us to take the to go and put the new piston on. I think that's really what we're going to do next. So let's get after it. Well, I almost forgot. Well, I certainly did forget while I had the camera on, but I remembered right away after. We forgot to do something. And that's, we need to test it, right? I think I mentioned that before. We're going to test it with some Marvel Mystery Oil. So we want to make sure that the job that we did in terms of the valve grind, worked really well, and that we have no leaks whatsoever. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil. Now, it doesn't have to be this. You could use oil. I guess you could use gas, although I'm not a fan of open gas. But I like Marvel Mystery Oil because it's very thin and it's red. So if you're going to have any sort of a leak, it's going to show up. You're going to see it for sure. There's going to be no doubt about it. So the key here is, first off, what we need to do is we need to, before we do that, I almost blew it. We need to put our spark plug back in, because of course we have a spark plug hole right there. So that needs to be sealed up. So make sure you got your spark plug in. Okay, and I'm actually going to grab, bear with me, I should have done this before I fired up the camera, but I'm going to just give that a little bit of a twist with a wrench, just to make sure that we don't get any leaks out of the spark plug hole. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a go here. Not going to get too carried away, just want to make sure she's seated. She's seated, that's good. Alrighty, so let's go and put some Marvel Mystery Oil in this thing now. How should we do it? Like that? Can you see that good? Yeah, I think you can see that pretty well. Maybe there's a bit more centered. Alrighty, now let's do this. And you want to just fill it up right to the top. Oh, maybe did I get a little too carried away there? It looks like I did, yeah. So, got a little too carried away. But you want it to be nice and topped right up there, okay? So we're going to leave that. We're going to let that sit. And it doesn't have to be forever. I mean, a lot of times I'll do this, in the evenings or whatever, and so I'll leave it overnight. That's a super good test, leave it overnight. But, as long as you're leaving it a few hours, you're probably okay. And if you don't get any leaks out of this thing, let's see, did I leak any because I overflowed it? Oh, I did a little bit. So I think what we're going to do is I'll get a fresh piece of paper. So, but anyways, I'll deal that off camera. But bottom line, let's maybe put it into a clean spot. There, we'll go put it in a clean spot over there. You want to make sure that that this level isn't going down at all. If this leaks out, then clearly we need to do the job again. Clearly we didn't do a good enough job on our valve grind. But this is what tests it, and the value of this is you're not completely reassembling the engine when you find out that it's not working. Okay, you do this test, this head is good, it's working. It's it's going to work perfectly for you. So, and that's of course what we want. So, alrighty, let's get after it. The next bit, as I mentioned, we're going to put the piston rings on the new piston, and we're going to install the new piston ring on the end, or the new piston on the engine. So let's do that next. Hey everybody, well, it's been about 3 hours, and here's the real world issue we've got. Do you see that red spot down there? That is Marvel Mystery Oil. And yeah, she is leaking through the intake. So we got I'm a good news, sort of that glass half full guy. So the glass half full here is the exhaust side is perfect. So we got that bit done. But yeah, the exhaust side is leaking. And if we take a look here carefully, you'll see that's where your carburetor goes, right? And obviously this thing is twirled up so we can have the Marvel Mystery Oil in the bowl, in the combustion chamber there. But that's where your carburetor goes on. And what do we see inside there? Marvel Mystery Oil. So that took about 2-3 hours, something like that, and she's leaking. So, you know, this thing would run. It probably run better than it did before, but it's not right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take this valve off, and I'm going to regrind it, put it back together again, and then we're going to redo the test. So I'm not going to bother filming that, but I will come back and let you know the end results. So this is just a kind of a really good, you know, despite the issues, and of course I'm, you know, unlike other videos where everything just works, this is the real world, right? This is the real world that I'm showing you here. And at least it's the real world for me. And so this is the value of the test though, right? We haven't put it on the bike. We've not wasted a lot of time. It's only a couple of extra minutes to take this off, do another bit of grinding on the valve, stick it back in, do another test. So that's what we're going to be doing, or what I'm going to be doing next. I'm not going to film it, but I will come back and tell you what the end result is. Okay, everybody, well, we've moved the operation inside today, and what we're going to do today is we're going to put the piston rings onto the new piston. Here's the old piston, here's the new piston, and actually the old piston doesn't look too bad. It does have a little bit of scoring, a little bit of hazing on the sides of the piston, but really not too bad. I think potentially this piston could have been reused. I'm actually going to save this piston. We're not going to use it. I do have a new piston here, and today we're going to put the piston rings on. So there are basically 5 rings that need to be put on. Okay, so there are our 5 rings right there. Okay, and there's really 2 different types. Essentially, there's really 3 rings, because these 2 rings actually sandwich together with this oil compression ring here like this, okay, and they go into the very bottom slot. There's 3 slots in the piston, 1, 2, 3, and so our oil compression ring goes here with the 2 solid outer ones going on top and bottom, and the this wavy looking thing going in between them. And then we have our that's the top ring. Then we have in the middle rung, we have a solid wire, which is thicker, solid ring, which is a bit thicker. And then we have this one, which looks really identical to the solid one, except that you'll notice it's shiny on the outside. It's got metal on the outside here, where this one is just, I'm guessing it's, what is it, solid iron, whatever it is, solid steel. So this one has got the shiny bit, that's the one that goes on top. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer here so you can see what I'm doing. And once we get this assembled, then we'll of course put it on the bike. But we first want to get this on here. Because these pistons are so small, especially, it's a little bit of a delicate process. You need to be really careful that you don't, break any of these rings or yada yada. Of course, get them in the right orientation, so it can be a little bit fiddly, but that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of assembly lube onto the rings here. Now, you don't have to use assembly lube necessarily. That's just what I'm going to use. You could use a little bit of oil, but it just helps get everything on there a little bit, and you don't need to get too carried away with this, just a little bit. Looks like I'm putting a lot on. I'm really not. I'm actually just moving this around to try to get it into the holes there. So there we go. Use my fingers here a little bit. Get that all on there. The beauty of assembly lube, of course, is it's quite thick and kind of, call it, sticky, and it just stays where you put it for the most part, although it does make a bit of a mess. So yeah. Okay, so we got that on there. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our compression, or I guess that's a compression ring, on first. We are going to, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be sandwiching those. We can actually move these ones out of our way because we don't need these just yet, so we'll move those out of camera shot here. But these are going to actually sandwich like this when it's done. But despite that, I'm actually going to put the compression ring on first. And then we'll slide the other one over top, the first one. So this is the first bit, so let's see if we can get that on there. This is going to be probably the easiest one we put on because it's quite flexible, really. this one. Okay. And I've made note on this one. This one especially is a little hard to see the gap. Right on these you can see the gap pretty easy on regular piston rings. On this one's a little hard to see, but I've made note that the gap on this one was right about in the middle of this hole and not that hole. Okay, this one's got a stamping on it that says 036L, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm just putting it there. Now you can put it anywhere, just make note of where you've got it so that you can see it, because you can see once it's in there, you basically can't see that gap on a compression ring very easily without taking it off again. So, because I think most people know, but we essentially want the gaps to be offsetting. So if you've got a gap here, you know, then you want the next gap to be not in the same spot. You don't want it to be identical, right? You want it to be in a different spot. It could be there, it could be there, it could be there. You don't want them overlapping. And that's not so critical in assembly. It's critical when we actually put it into the cylinder on the bike. Okay, that's where you want to make sure these things are offset from each other when it's actually going into the cylinder. But right now, we just want them, you know, we'll still offset them, but I'm not too worried about it. We can move these around if we need to later. The compression ring is hard to see though, so there you go. Okay, so let's do the next one. And again, this one we're going to want to put onto the bottom area here, okay, on the underside. So let's give that a go. Let's see. I'll probably do this in stages. Okay, there we go. We've got that one on there. So that was a little bit of a struggle, as you can see, for me. But you can see we've got that on there perfectly now, so we've got the bottom one on there, okay? And I can see that my gap for this ring is in the wrong spot. So I'm just going to move that over. Because if you recall, our gap was kind of around that hole. So I'm just moving the ring around a little bit. Now, again, it's not critical at this juncture. It will be when we put it on the cylinder. Okay, let's now get the other one on. So now this one is going to go on top here. Okay, so it's going to go in the very top area above that. So we're going to try this again. Now, I'm going to try this a bit of a different way. I'm going to try to do this a little bit more, hopefully a little bit better than that other one. It's always the way. First one can always be a little bit, you know, it's like everything else, a bit of a learning experience in a way. Oh yeah, we're still doing good here. Okay, so just bring this down, bring her down, bring her down. Come on, baby, come on down. Oh, look at that. She just popped on there. Well, look at that. Did that one like a pro. Did the first one like not a pro. And of course, I'm not a pro. I'm a tinkerer. I'm a mad tinkerer, as you know. I'm not a mechanic. Okay, so we've got that on there, and you see we've got the perfect sandwich. We've got our solid ring on the bottom, our compression ring in the middle, and another solid ring on top. And if you look at it, she's perfect everywhere. Okay, good. So that one's done. So now what we need to do, again, we've got the two solid rings yet to put on. Okay, these are much more stiff than the bottom ones. Okay, they're much stiffer. And so this one does not have a silver edge. This one does. That's the top one. Put that one in last and move it over here. So let's put this one on next. Okay, just being careful here, because these ones are stiffer and of course they're more brittle as well, so you do need to be careful with these. Okay, and there's that one on, just snapped on there. So hopefully you're able to see what I'm doing here a little bit. I hope so. So we'll just move that one over. Well, actually that's lining up there. Yeah, we'll move it over here somewhere. Again, we'll figure this out. These move so easily that no matter where I put these top ones now, they're going to have to be adjusted before they go on the cylinder anyways. It doesn't really matter too much. One of the things you may be wondering about is some piston kits do have alignment marks on the top of the piston rings, or some markings on them as to what orientation they go on, and that is true even for CT70s and Z50s. This particular kit does not have markings, and these particular rings can go in any orientation, up or down. So just so you're aware of that, they are it's just the way this particular kit is that they don't have any markings anywhere. I should have mentioned it off the top actually. You should actually carefully inspect your piston rings. Typically there'll be a mark, you know, top or bottom, or they'll actually, you know, show you, and where if there is any markings or you see anything at all on the top here, whether it's a dimple or a mark or a number or anything, that's the side that goes up. In this particular kit, there isn't something like that. These are just uniform ones. It's probably just a cheap piston, and it does not have that. So that's why you don't see me doing that. So it's a cheap piston, but hopefully a good one. It's from, like the dealer says it is, so we'll see. We'll find out. Okay, so let's put this top one on the same way we did the other ones, carefully. Okay, there we go. And there's our piston rings on, and now we're ready to put it onto the connecting rod. So that's what we're going to be doing next. I'm still waiting on the cylinder to arrive in the mail, because I ordered a new cylinder for this bike. So I probably should have done that when I got the piston, right? But I did not. So I'm going to be waiting on that. But in the interim, we can certainly put this on the onto the connecting rod, and that will be the next thing. To do that, we're going to need these clips here. Okay, let's just see if I've got a little knife here that I can cut this open with. So we have our little screw clips. Okay. And we have our, I guess I need that for this too. Hang on a sec. Okay, so to actually go and you know, put this on the bike, of course, we need to, you know, we're going to need to go and actually put one of these on one side. Okay, put our wrist pin, or not our wrist pin, but put it on one side, and that way when we put our piston onto the you know, onto the connecting rod, we can just push this through and then push it solid against the one pin the one screw clip we've put on, like that. Okay, and then all we need to do on the connecting rod is put the other screw clip on. So that'll be the next process. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the piston on. So the very first thing we want to do is make sure our orientation is correct. There will be almost assuredly a marking on the top of the piston showing you the orientation. In this case, it's a little downward arrow or triangle, and that needs to be pointing down. If you have a divot on the side of your piston, a little you know, gouge on the side of your, gouge is the wrong word, but a little divot on the side of your piston, that's going to be for the spark plug hole. Okay, so again, you're going to need to make sure that is on the, you know, the spark plug side of the engine, and that will tell you your orientation. But it's important we get the piston the right way up. So you'll notice, and the reason why is typically, I don't know if the camera really picks it up, but typically this little recess here is a different size than this little recess because of your intake and exhaust valves. But in any event, you got to get the piston correctly oriented. So now what we're going to do is, we've already got obviously our little circlip on the one side. We have our wrist pin sitting here. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to place it over top. I'm going to try this with my fingers out of your way, over top of the piston. So I'm looking at the hole. I've got it lined up as best I can, just visually looking through it this way. And now we're going to take the wrist pin and try to push that in there. And this can be a little bit, you know, this can take a little bit of effort because, you know, it's you got to mess with it a little bit to get it in, you know, to actually find the hole. but you will get it. So I'm just going to take this off for a second, get this oriented a little better, because I think I've got a little bit cattywampus there. There we go, that's better. I didn't have it in quite straight, so I've just got it on the edge there, right? So just got it on the edge. You can still, it's not protruding through, so that's actually what I'm doing. Let's place it over top now, get it lined up with our hole, relatively speaking, and feel for it. Push it through and in. Done. Okay, so we're not done yet. That's most of it, but now we would need to put our circlip on. And the process is exactly the same as we did on the bench. Okay, so we're going to stick it in there, and I'm just going to get it into one edge. So the open edge, I'm going to try to get it into the slot. And once I have it in there, then I will turn it. So let me just, it's just hard to do this with the camera in the way, but I think I can do it. Let's just see there. I think we just about got it. Yeah, there we go. We've got that in there. So let me grab the camera here and show you. I don't think you quite see that pin there, that circlip. So there's that circlip in there. And you'll notice that I've got the gap away from both of these openings on the piston, okay? And that's the key. If you don't, then you just need to, you know, grab a hold of the tang here and twirl it. If yours doesn't have a tang, some of the original OEM circlips here did not have this tang, which is frankly quite helpful. But if yours is just a circle, then you may need to get a pick or something else to actually just, you know, move it around, okay? But that's it. So now we've got the piston on there. So now all we're doing is just, I'm frankly just waiting on parts. So I'll be waiting on the head to arrive in the mail, and when it does, what am I saying? The head? No, the cylinder. The head is over there. Oh no, by the way, this is sitting here. I did redo the head. You know, I told you that we were having a leak issue the first time I did it. It's now been sitting here for 4 hours. I've been timing it, and as you can see, we've got no leaks at all. She's looking pristine. I'm going to leave it here a little longer, but we've got a winner here now. All I did is exactly the same process as what I showed you in the valve grind, and just gave the intake valve a little bit more of a grind. It didn't get carried away, and put it back together again, and done. So that's why you do the test, right? Tests don't always work out perfect, but that's why you do the test. Better on the bench than on the bike, where you got to rip it all apart again. So, alrighty, so we're basically just waiting on parts. It's probably gonna take me, it's probably gonna be a week or 10 days for me, but for you, it's gonna be just like that. Okay guys, well it's been about 3 weeks since we did that, since I did that last clip, but the part has arrived. So there is our new cylinder, ready to go, ready to be assembled. And we also have laid out here the various gaskets we need. So the gasket for the cylinder, gasket for the head, the various seals that we're gonna need. We've got some assembly lubes sitting there. We have our redone you know, our redone head that's ready to go and be assembled, and we actually have here some you know, some new acorn nuts and yada yada to tighten her all down. So you know what, I think we need to just get after it. Let's go do it. First things first, we're gonna put our gasket on. So we'll just weave that on here, and we need to get our piston through there and our chain through there. Just do that carefully. Okay. All right, so we've got that on there. Got it over top of our alignment pegs as well there. So now what we need to do is put our seal in, and that seal goes right there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little assembly lube on there. This assembly lube is quite sticky, and it's gonna, oh, I don't think I have it opened up. It's gonna actually keep it in place there for us as we assemble the rest of it. So yeah, it's very sticky. Okay, get that on there. Oh, come on. Stuck to me, not to the case. There we go. Get in there. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Awesome. So now the next bit is to actually put the cylinder on, okay? But before we do that, I'm going to lube up the bore here, okay? I'm also going to lube up the rings and the piston. So we'll do that next. And again, I'm just using assembly lube for this. If you don't have assembly lube, you can use oil. You know, if you don't have assembly lube, you know, gear oil is actually not a bad second option because it's a thick oil, but whatever you've got. It's just going to make life a little bit easier and keep things from wearing on startup especially. So, okay, I'm just going to get some on the rings here. Okay, now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to clock our rings. I'm not clocking them first because I've got to get the oil on, I'm moving them around. So we now need to clock the rings, meaning that all of the openings are in different positions on the piston. And so that's going to be the next thing to do. To do that, I am going to grab some glasses. Okay, so now that we have all of the piston rings clocked and we have our seal in a special spot right here with a little bit of assembly lube, now we can put the cylinder on. So let's do that now. So we'll just guide her on here. And yeah, the process here, you know, is just to squish the rings on with your fingers, do some wiggling and jiggling. And once you get it in so far, then we'll put the timing chain through the hole. But we're just going to get her started here. So that's going to be the process, just to kind of... There we go. Look at that. She's starting to go. Okay, good, 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 good. You know, we don't want to push it all the way because we got to get the timing chain through here. I'm just using a little dental pick here to grab it and pull it through. Okay, good. I'm just going to hang on. It's going to stay there for us. I think so. Okay, so let's just push her the rest of the way into the bore. Okay, like that. While I'm holding her down, I'll just give her a little bit of a... Make sure she's all kind of working here. Well, going the wrong way. That's a problem. Okay, here we go. There we go. Yeah, she's working great. So that's all in there. All that extra assembly lube's coming out. That's fine. We got this on there. So now the next bit is to go and put our timing idler gear that goes right in here. So I don't have it handy. I'm just going to pause the camera here and go grab it. Okay, so for now we're just going to put this in here. Just put her in like that. It's going to be a little bit fun because the camera's frankly right in my way here. So I'll see if I can find that hole through the gear. And we're not going to really tighten this too much now. I'm just going to get it on there finger tight, make sure we've got it all lined up. Yeah, there we go. And she's all on there for us, so that's good. Now I'm obviously have to tighten that up. We also have to put a bolt into here to hold her on and a few other things, but we'll do that next. Alrighty, so let's snug the cylinder down here so she doesn't move on us. So they've got a little JIS top on these bolts here, which makes it nice and easy. We'll maybe check this later, but we'll get her snugged down pretty good there now. Yeah, that's actually pretty decent. I'll be checking that later, of course. Good. So what's the next bit? Well, I think the next bit here is to put our gasket on for the head. And our various, our couple of oil seals as well. So yeah, that'll be next. Okay, next thing is to put our head gasket on. So we'll just slide that on there. Put our chain through. Okay, good. That's excellent. Now there are two oil seals that go here. And again, we're going to use the assembly lube trip to kind of hold them in place for us. So just get a little assembly lube on there. Stick her in. So there's a big one that goes here, okay, and there is a smaller one. Do you see that smaller one that goes over top of this seal of this one stud? Okay, so the lower right stud here, this one, lower right. What am I saying? Lower left. Lower left stud that goes right here. Okay, like that. Okay. Now we just need to slide our head on, and you obviously want the timing gear side on the same side as the timing chain. It seems like a really good idea. And we'll have to slide our timing chain through as we go. So there's a little trick there. Actually, let me grab the timing chain gear to kind of show you that. So the little trick is that we look for our little divot on here. Let me see if I can see it. Oh yeah, there she is there. So hopefully the camera picks this up, but you'll see that little circle there. And we're gonna make life a little bit easier on ourselves to time this thing. And we're gonna try to get that dead straight this way. So first off, we'll move it to top dead center. Let's get her to top dead center. I mean, you can look at the piston too, but I'm actually looking at the mark. Okay, so that's top dead center. There we go. And then we're going to put our timing divot here so it's pointing directly forward as much as we can. Now, we're probably going to be 1 or 2 links out, and that's okay because once it's in the engine, we can move it 1 or 2 links pretty easily. But what we want to do, I gotta move myself here. The camera's in the way so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, sorry if we're jostling you. Okay guys, so we've got it on top dead center, and I just put a light on this from behind us so we can hopefully see this a little bit better. You'll notice the mark right there. Do you see that? I've got it basically as straight as I can out this way. It may be out by one link, but that's okay. It makes it easier. So we're gonna just let that hang there. And then when we put the head on and slide it on there, it'll hopefully be in roughly the right positions. Alrighty, so now the only thing left to do is to put the head on. We've of course got the gasket on. We've got our oil seal on there with assembly lube to hold it in place. We've got our timing chain gear in there clocked to where we want it to be to make life easy. I always like life to be easy, so that's a good way to go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put our see if we can put our head on here. So let's give that a go. So don't mind me while I get this started. Okay. So we get in there a little bit, and then we'll guide our gear in there. Okay, stay in there. Yeah, we're just about there. Okay, so that's just about it. So yeah, we just gotta push it. Oh, yeah, that actually is it. We actually have it, so that's great. So now if our chain doesn't slip on there, we'll just about have that in place. Once we tighten this down a little bit, we'll be able to get the gear on there. But for now, she's just gonna have to sit there. So maybe we'll stick something in the hole. Will that work? That's not going to work. That's okay. I often will have a little screwdriver or something in advance to go and hold that, but you get the idea. As long as we don't mess with it too bad, it should stay in position. We can always move the chain if we need to. So now the next bit is to actually start tightening her down a bit. So that's what we're going to do next. Well, that little trick worked really well for us by actually going in, before we put the head on, actually going and putting the gear on approximately, with the little mark straight out. As it turns out, we were bang on actually. So there we are on the timing tee, and if we come down here, I don't have the nuts in there, or the machine screws in there yet, but you can see our little mark lines up exactly with the notch in the case. So hopefully you can see the notch in the case here. There's our notch. There's our mark. I'm going to line this thing back up again, get it on there. And you'll see, oh, sorry, the terrible camera work. that she's bang on, okay? So that's what you're looking for. That's how you make sure the engine is in dead on time. Now we just have to put the machine screws in there, and yeah, she should be good. Okay guys, so we've got the timing gear all nicely snugged down. I didn't film it, I probably should have. The only hard part about this is actually going and finding a way to snug these down without the engine turning over. So I just wanted to quickly show you that little trick. There's some little notches on the side of the case here for holding on the cover. So if you just take a small screwdriver and you can just wedge it in between that and one of the teeth here, okay? Then you can, my hands are probably in the way to show you this, but I think you get the idea. Then you can get your tool on it and give it a snug. Now, you probably should use a torque wrench on this, but I don't. I typically go by feel, rightly or wrongly, and the reason for that is twofold. When you're dealing with such low torque values, you know, if you've got it set wrong, you can get carried away, yada yada. Don't ask me how I know. A torque wrench is the right way to go. But I personally am not doing that here. Okay, and I frankly won't do that on the head either. Again, there's particular torque values. You can look them up. It's easy to find them, but that's just not the way I do these very small engines. It's just way too easy to strip things out. And if you get foot-pounds and inch-pounds mixed up or anything else, then you're in trouble. Not only that, but just from doing a lot of these, I kind of know where they need to be just from feel. So that's what I'm doing. Alrighty, so now we're going to go and put the gasket on and the cover on here. So we've got our gasket on there first. Alrighty. And then we're going to put our cover on, and this thing looks identical, whichever way you kind of spin it, with this way or this way. But there is a little arrow on this thing. Let me find it here. Little arrow. Let me bring this up to the camera so you can see it too. Little arrow is right there. Do you see that? See that? See that? Yeah, very hard to see, but there's a little arrow there. Do you see that? Okay, I think so. And so this goes down. So you want to make sure that is in the correct position. You put that down, and then we just start putting our bolts and washers on. Yeah, and so we put a castle nuts on these three here, and we put a nut and a copper washer on this one, I believe. Maybe I better just check that. 2 secs. Well, I guess I shouldn't have questioned myself because that's bang on. So we put acorn nuts on all of these three locations, and then just a nut and copper washer onto that location. So yeah, that's what we're going to do now. We can just, we'll fast forward through this bit. Okay, so we've just basically got them on so that they're bottomed out now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually start torquing them down just in a random pattern like this, okay, so that you're distributing the load as you go. Swapped out the wrench for a socket just simply because the one that I had there was bottoming out on the fins there with the wrench. So again, I'm going to do these in some sort of equidistant fashion. As they loosen up, just try to get them as tight as the other ones. It's getting quite tight. We're very close here now. Yeah, that's it right there. Okay, so we've got that all torqued down, so I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, the next bit, I guess we need to put the cover on. The cover on here. We're obviously going to need to set our our valve clearances as well, so we need to do those things. So yeah, let's get after it. Okay, to put our cover on, there is a gasket, and there are two little protrusions out of this. The small one here goes right in that gap there. Okay, so you just stick her on there, and if you get in there right, it shouldn't move. Just hold it, and then take the bolt, and from the opposite side of the engine, which you can't see but is very obvious, right by the spark plug hole, just start screwing it in there. So that's how you do that. Okay, for us to do the valve adjustment, we need to make sure the engine is on the correct stroke, okay? So without going into that in too much detail, very simply what we want to do is we want to watch for the exhaust valve to open and then the intake valve to open. And once the intake valve is opened secondarily after the exhaust, we then want to move our flywheel here until the timing mark, the T mark, shows up on the flywheel here. So we're going to do that now. So let me just get down there with you so I can actually see the exhaust. So okay, there's our exhaust going. Okay, so that would be the wrong position. Now we're going to see our intake going. Okay, so the intake is going. Now we want to move the flywheel up to the T position, and that will be where the correct spot for our timing. And you'll know that you're in the right spot because you'll feel it feels loose up here, and that also is another good indication that you're on what's known as backlash. So it basically means both valves are in the closed position. So let's just go through that one more time. So watch the exhaust. Okay. See the exhaust valve going? I'm getting some compression here. I got the spark plug in there. Okay, and then we're going to see our intake going. Okay, all right, and then we turn it until we get to the T mark, and it feels loose, and it's right there. You can actually feel it. I don't even have to look at the T hardly, although I'm going to make sure she's bang lined up, and she is. So that is the position we need to have the engine in to now adjust our valves. Okay, so now that we're doing that, it is 2/1000ths of an inch, okay, 2/1000ths in for both the intake and the exhaust. I've got a special set of tools that I'm going to use here, and let me just change your position on the tripod so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so these are the tools that I'm going to use. You can pick these up quite reasonably off of Amazon and, from any sort of small parts dealer, wherever you're buying your Honda parts, they'll sell these things too. And essentially what it allows you to do is to both, there's both an inner machine screw there, and then of course there's a nut to snug it down. This lets you do both at once, and actually when it comes to snugging it down, it lets you put this on here like this and to snug it down with this, okay, kind of like that. All right, so if you get the idea, so you can, and that way you can actually do some fine adjustments as you're doing this. This particular process is really hard to film, guys, doing this, so bear with me. I do have a separate video. If you're really interested in this, I've got a video that is probably going to be better than this one for you to watch under my list of CT70 videos. So it's exactly the same on the CT70 as this. It's zero difference. So go watch that if you can't follow me on this one. So I'm just going to go do the work, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So what I've got is a 2/1000th feeler gauge here. And actually, interestingly, I just adjusted it with my fingers here this way, and it's not that far out. What you want to feel is a fair bit of friction there. So you can use the tool here to kind of get it exactly where you need it, which is what I'm going to do. So let's just put the tool on there, and you have to make sure your nut's backed off sufficiently. And then just feel around, try to get my hand out of the way for you. So I'm making it tighter this way. You can see me moving the tool, moving it back. Yeah, it's pretty good. Is that too tight? That's a bit tight. That's pretty good. So you want it so you've got friction, but you don't want it so tight that you can't move your feeler gauge, okay? But you do want it fairly tight, fairly snug, Okay, so now it's a matter of using the two tools together because we need to tighten this thing up now. Just going to move the nut with my finger so I don't have so far to move anything. Make sure she's all the way where I want it. Put this on here. Put this on here. We're going to double check where we're at here with this. Oh, I wasn't on it. Okay, there we go. Now I've got it on there. Yeah, it's too tight. That's where I want it, right there. So now I'm going to hold this tool and I'm going to tighten with this one, okay? Hey guys, wouldn't you know it, just as I was finishing that bit up, the camera stopped. So anyways, we're back in business here. All I was saying was that after I tightened it up was that we've got it really good here with our 2000 feeler gauge. And you can actually hear the how tight it is. Again, you want it snug, but you don't want it tight. You want to be able to take the feeler gauge in and out, and you want to actually have it essentially rubbing. And if you listen, I'm going to be quiet for a moment, you'll actually hear it. So hopefully you can hear that and pick that up, but you'll get the feel for it. You want it to be a little bit snug. So that's it with that one. I'm going to do the exhaust now. I'm not going to film the exhaust. It's identical to the intake. Again, if you want a more detailed version of how to set the valves, I do have a video for that on the CT70 that in my CT70 playlist, you'll find that video, and it's much more detailed than this one. It's exactly the same on the CT70 as it is on this bike. So, alrighty, so yeah, so what's going to be after this? Boy, oh boy, after the valves all set, I think we'll put the carburetor on. What do you guys think? I think that'll be next. Okay guys, I put the front wheel on, I put the exhaust on, and now it's time for us to put the carburetor on. So it's getting real, guys. We're getting close. So let's just get after it here. We'll put our gasket down there and get the carburetor on there. Goes into this little boot here. So we'll kind of do that first, I think. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Bolts and lock washers. Good. I'm gonna tighten those up. Then we're gonna put the slide in here as well. So if the little slide side goes on the opposite side of the engine, you just have to feel for it. Just get that into the carb. So she slides in nice. Tighten that down. Okay, let's fast forward the tightening of these. Okay, now we'll put our fuel line on. Just going to back off the clamp here a little bit. Stick the fuel line on. Put our clamp back on. Alrighty. Okay, so you know what? What we need to do now is we need to go and put oil in it and fire it up. I think that's the next bit. So I'm not going to bother filming putting oil in it. I'm going to put oil in it, and then when you come back, which is going to be pretty much like this, we'll fire it up. We'll see what happens. At least we'll try to fire it up, eh? So yeah, let's get after it. Alrighty, well, you know what? The time has come. Let's take a look at that bike and see if she'll run for us. Let's give her a go. Okay, it's kind of crowded in here, and the bike is so short, it's pretty hard for me to get in the shot. But we're gonna give this thing a go and see if all of that work is gonna work out for us. We'll turn the fuel on, choke. Yeah, we'll leave the choke on partially a little bit, I guess. Yeah, give her a little bit of gas, see what happens here. No way. No way. Unreal. Let's, I'm blown away. I'm blown away. Hang on a sec. Oh my God. Stumbled a little bit there, but hey, not too bad for not even adjusting the carb. I mean, my God. Okay. I'm totally thrilled by that. I mean, unbelievable. That's very, very rare. Very rare that first kick and away she goes. So, oh my gosh. You know what? Let me get the rest of it kind of together. I think I still got to put the gear shift on it and whatnot. But let's take it outside and see if she'll run. See if we can run around the yard a little bit. My God, that's cool. Alrighty, let's fire it up and see what she'll do. Still too bad. Okay, we'll put her in gear. Let's see what it does. Well, that is, brakes need a little bit of adjusting. But man alive, I am so happy with that. That is so great. Well, look, you know what, guys? Thanks so much. If you made it this far, you are an absolute hero, because this is a super long video. So anyways, I just want to just take you off the stand here, and thank you very much for watching the video. I really, really appreciate it. And you know, if you don't mind, if you could, if you like this video, if you could like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. The greatest thank you could do for me, though, would be to leave a comment. To be honest with you, seriously, even if it's a criticism, I read all the comments, and I get back to everybody on your comments. So I would really, really appreciate that. And that's going to be the end of this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and keep the rubber side down, everybody. Bye for now. Cheers.